Hey, you. Yeah, you there. Kiss me, you cutie. Fighting games, as you probably know if you're watching this video, are pretty hard and girthy. I'd argue they're the hardest genre of games, most people quitting before they ever really get anywhere with them. A learning curve so steep you want to jump off and die by the end of it. They can be downright brutal and unforgiving at times.
Robin can get with Elwyn, that'll do it though.
With either high execution, whether they are demanding of quick reactions, or simply being forced to make a decision in a tough situation. I mean, hell, most of the time it's all of these things at the same time. But there seems to be an upward trend in recent years of fighting games giving you, for lack of a better term, training wheels. Holding your hand and if you're lucky, even wiping your ass. Baby's first fighting game.
There goes half my life off of a random ass launcher. That's half my life, just like that, because they wanted to make the game so fucking accessible.
Through the use of mechanics like drive impact and modern controls in Street Fighter 6, fatal blows in the Mortal Kombat games, and the heat mechanic and rage art in Tekken 8, all of these fighting games have some sort of mechanic that will hold a newer player's hand, whether it was intended to or not. And that's what today's video will be about. This is, are modern fighting games too beginner friendly? The casualization of fighting games. If you enjoyed today's video, please leave a like, a sub, a comment on your opinion. Any support helps grow the channel, gang gang. I should let you know I'm not entirely against system mechanics that help newer players out. I mean shit, I even use summons in Elden Ring. Beginner-friendly mechanics only bother me when it carries over to all levels of play and forces you to play around a mechanic even at the highest level of the game when the mechanic was specifically designed for lower level. That's just my opinion though, and my opinion is fact. The entire reason fighting games provide these remedial mechanics is to invite new players to the genre. Come over here, play our game, we will give you armored moves and one-button special moves. And I get where the developers are coming from. Fighting games are a very niche genre, meaning not many people play them, and a big part of the reason for that is because of their learning curve. They are extremely unforgiving to new players, and I commend developers for trying to make them more inviting. Come to my birthday party. They're just doing it entirely wrong is all. Later in this video, I will explain some of the better ways some games have pulled this off. But for now, I think the best way to approach this is to cover the big three of the fighting game scene, and how they all fall victim, at least in some way, some more than others, to the training wheel problem. Those games of course being Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, and Tekken. Quick disclaimer before we start the video, I'm not saying any of the mechanics we talk about today are beginner friendly. I'm not saying any of the mechanics we talk about today are scrub mechanics. Well, some of them, as you'll see, I do think are scrub mechanics, but this video is just an exploration of all these different mechanics some people may consider beginner friendly, and we're gonna dissect if, in my opinion, they actually are beginner friendly. I know some of y'all are gonna get pissed off. Hey, why are you saying that's beginner friendly? That's not beginner friendly. We're playing devil's advocate today, okay? Because if you go and look, I'm sure somebody online somewhere is saying these mechanics are scrub mechanics, remedial mechanics, dumb mechanics. So let's just talk about it. I'm not saying they're dumb or scrubby. That doesn't mean we can't talk about it. First, Street Fighter. As I said before, Street Fighter delivers both modern inputs and drive impact to our list. First, I want to preface this. There's nothing inherently wrong with modern inputs. They do what they're meant to do. They provide assistance for newer players. It allows you to play with your friends and have fun without spending hours and hours learning how to do every one of fighting games' crazy inputs. Okay, so now we get into my problem with modern inputs, because of course I have a problem with it. I'm the commentator guy, I'm very negative and hate everything. So, where modern inputs stop being okay for me is the fact that you can literally use them at the highest level of the game. So that is the metric I'm using this whole video, is if your mechanic is meant to hold newer players' hands, make the game more accessible, and it shows up in beginner level play, intermediate level play, and high level play, then that's just bad design of the mechanic. You shouldn't be able to win tournaments using the mechanic that makes the game more accessible. To me, I mean, that seems a little crazy. There have been numerous tournaments won with modern inputs. Yeah, you sacrifice some stuff by running modern inputs. You lose like a couple special moves, couple normals, whatever it may be. Does it really matter though when you can still win tournament with certain characters? And some people, you can go read these forums, some people will argue that modern is better on certain characters. So it's like, where do we draw the line of helping newer players out? I would say you're going too far the moment your beginner-friendly mechanic can be used in tournaments. Again, it's more nuanced than that, right? It's not fully black and white. But if your mechanic is as black and white as here's easier inputs and is literally being effective in tournament, then I don't think they quite hit the nail with the hammer on the head with the hammer and the nail head. And ultimately, you have to ask, where are we even heading? Like, what's the end game here? You know what I mean? Like, if somebody's brand new to fighting games, learns modern controls, and then goes to try to play any other fighting game, they're cooked. It's like Street Fighter wants to have a monopoly on these new players, like, learn modern controls, and then you'll never learn anything else. You could just keep playing our games and we'll keep having modern controls. Again, though, the idea is there. I understand we're inviting people in, we're letting them play the game without having to spend hours and hours and hours labbing. And I don't think it's the end of the world if modern inputs do win a tournament. But it does create a lot of negative things. Again, it traps beginner players into only knowing this one input system on this one game series. It makes people who are pretty decent at the game start wondering, should I play modern controls? Even though I can do regular inputs, I still might as well do modern controls because it's actually an advantage in some regards. Again, the nail hammer, miss the hammer on the nail with the head, so. Hell, Drive Impact doesn't even bother me that much. I think Tekken and Mortal Kombat are worse offenders of the training wheels issue, really. But that's not to say Drive Impact is without fault. Yeah, you don't see Drive Impacts much at pro level of play. They are hella reactable, being 26 frames, and pro players are reacting to that all day. Outside of maybe being in burnout in the corner. You know, specific situations. Now let me ask you a question, you little cutie. Are you a pro player? Are you able to avoid every Drive Impact that comes your way? That's what I thought, you stinking cutie. Of course not. At a lot of levels of play, Drive Impact is straight up spammed in matches without much thought given to it. It's a combo starting armored move. You give that to people in any game, and I can promise you it's going to be used, and it's going to be used a lot. Just by the design and nature of the move, it's a free armor launching move. Again though, I don't entirely hate that mechanic, even with how strong it is at securing stuns in the corner, or the thought of free armor spamming. My dislike for Drive Impact really solely comes from how many levels of play it's in. To me, if we're going to have mechanics that invite new players in, then intermediate play shouldn't have that same training wheel mechanic in every match. If you're in Diamond or lower, or even low Master or lower, Drive Impact is very prevalent in Street Fighter 6. Yeah, I know it's reactable, you can react to it. Do I want to constantly watch out for an armored combo starter? Not really. Again, just my opinion, and my opinion is fact. Street Fighter 6 took away a lot of the one-frame links that Street Fighter was well known for. Like, if you go back to the older games, they're notorious for being hard in execution, a lot of tight one-frame links, and then you go to Street Fighter 6, and you could argue it is more beginner-friendly now, with the way links have been changed. Mortal Kombat. Now, Mortal Kombat is definitely a worse offender of the training wheel issue. If Street Fighter's offense warranted a warning and have a nice day, Mortal Kombat's offense might just deserve the death penalty. So let's talk about it. Fatal blows. Fatal blows are the scum of the earth. Straight up Diddy vibes from these guys.
Love, how do you describe yourself?
I'm vivacious, eccentric, and I'm a Scorpio.
What's one misconception about you?
There are no misconceptions about me.
So Fatal Blows, for those of you who don't know, are the super mechanic of Mortal Kombat. To unlock this super, you have to be low on health, probably about 30% health to be exact. So far, not so bad, I guess. I mean, getting rewarded a super for losing is kind of scrubby in my opinion, especially in a game that doesn't need it, but okay, we will let it slide this time. I wish that was the only issue. Fatal Blow is also armored, beats combo break, regenerates on whiff or block. Yes, you heard that right. Even if you miss the super by playing like a complete bonehead, just give it about 15 seconds, the game will give you another chance. Look, if you had 2 chances, 2 opportunities, you gonna capture it, or you just gonna let it slip? Oh man, that sucks. You missed your super. I'm sorry, man. Here's another one. Here's another one. Another one.
Another one. Another one. Another one.
And I gotta mention this about fatal blows. You literally do more damage or take less damage by mashing buttons during the fatal blow. It's not enough that you have to deal with this super in the game. They literally added an interactive minigame. Woo! That's so fun! That you have to interact with the fatal blow through the whole thing by just mashing buttons. So to summarize, an armored super that's rewarded to you for getting your ass beat, that stops combo break, in Mortal Kombat 11 at least. In Mortal Kombat 1 you can combo break it, yippee. That even if you miss it or have it blocked, it comes back the same round so you get a do-over. I call a do-over. Let's call a spade a spade. The reason Mortal Kombat even has the fatal blow mechanic, I don't think was even to invite new players in. Rather, I think it's because they spend a lot of money animating these supers and they want them to be seen. Unlike a game like Mortal Kombat X, where X-rays aren't really seen much. Because in Mortal Kombat X, there's 1 bar of meter, so your super is shared with everything else you have to spend resources on, so you just never saw supers. So I get wanting to have your fancy supers seen, but again, they went about it the wrong way. I think Street Fighter has a much better idea of 2 separate meters, that way you can still see the supers without having to tie it to 1 bar of meter. I think Mortal Kombat's a bad offender of this training wheel issue because Fatal Blow is used in all levels of play, which again is my metric here. How many levels of play does it show up in? If Fatal Blow is used in lower level play, intermediate level play, and advanced level play, an armored super that you get rewarded for losing that regenerates on whiff and block, that's an issue. Another thing you could add against Mortal Kombat is if you go back to Mortal Kombat 9, Mortal Kombat 10, there's sprinting in the game, there's all this crazy stuff, and then you come to the newer games, it's way slower down, you got the poking system. You could just argue in some way the general pacing of the game favors newer players these days. A lot of the just general system mechanics as well, like in MK11 they had the regeneratable meter. I mean, it literally just came back over time, you didn't have to work for your meter or anything like that. I mean, come play our game, please. I want some toes in my mouth. God, give me them toes. Nom 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 nom. Oh, put some toes in my mouth. Nom 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 nom. Now I gotta say, I am a newer Tekken player, but I have close to 200 hours now, and I feel confident in saying this. Why the fuck does this game also have Fatal Blow? Now mind you, some of you Tekken loyalists have been playing the game for like 7 years, you might have a different opinion of it than me, that's fair. But for me, Tekken literally has Fatal Blow, but debatably worse, in the Rage Art mechanic.
Bro, did you do a motherfucking rage art in my stream? You banned, nigga!
Now in Tekken 7 it wasn't such a big deal because you had rage drives, right? Which just means, imagine Fatal Blow, but instead of using your Fatal Blow you get to do a cool special move instead. Okay, that's fine. I could live with that. In Tekken 8 though, what it is, every round. So in Mortal Kombat you only get 1 a game, 1 Fatal Blow, right? In Tekken you get 1 every round. It's an armored super for getting your ass beat. Yes, it's punishable on block, it's death on block. So the problem with Rage Art ultimately is it has the same problem with Fatal Blow, is it's used in a lot of levels of play. Maybe not the super top level, it's even used in the super top level. I'm not even gonna sit here and lie like it's not, it is. It's used less often, obviously, and in a smarter way. They might do a move that's like -5, and then when you go to press a button, they'll super you. Kinda corny, but the one saving grace for Rage Art is that if you do whiff it or get it blocked, it doesn't come back that same round, unlike Fatal Blow. And that's how you know we're really in the bottom of the barrel, when we're celebrating the fact that a super doesn't regenerate on whiff. I mean, my god, we are a sad species. In Mortal Kombat, if you hit a Fatal Blow, you don't get it for the rest of the game. In Tekken, if you hit a Rage Art, you get it the next round still. Not only that, but until you spend your super, your Rage Art, you have like a 10% damage buff. Oh well, I digress. The other thing I want to cover with Tekken is the heat mechanic. Now, anybody who's played Tekken or just slightly kept up with the community, I'm sure you've seen a lot of backlash about Season 2. What is most of the backlash about Season 2 really about, right? Well, it's about a lot of things. It's about not being able to sidestep, too much pressure, yada yada. But what is all this really revolving around? The heat mechanic, right? And the heat mechanic has a lot of the same problems as Fatal Blow and Rage Art. It's just a spammable super you get every round for free. It's even worse than that though. What it is you You activate it, right? You're plus on block. Then for the next like minute of gameplay, you get bonus chip damage, new combo routes, all this. And right at the end of it, when you have a little tiny micro penis of fucking heat pixel left, you can super. You can super on top of it. And that super for some characters will literally wall splat you into a combo. So it's a launching super that you get every round. So in Tekken, you get 2 supers every round for free. One for losing, one for pressing a button that's plus on block. Pretty ridiculous. Now, mind you, I don't think it ruins the game. I like Tekken 8. It's actually my favorite of these 3 games. But, you know, I have to call a spade once again. Like, why are we doing this? Again, I can't assume their intentions. I don't know if it was to invite new players in or what. But I do know that at intermediate and below play, which is most of Tekken, let's be honest, because nobody's Tekken God Supreme Kai Lord, you know what I mean? Intermediate play and below, this shit is just spammed ruthlessly. Super, heat, dash, super, heat, dash, power crush. You know what I mean? It's a little ridiculous. And as far as Tekken, another thing you could argue is catered more to beginners is in Tekken 8 now, you can't sidestep a lot of moves that you could sidestep in Tekken 7. In general, the game is a lot more, I guess you could say, linear in some sense because your defensive options are more limited. So you have to hold more offense, so the game is less interactive overall. Now, I wouldn't say this is fully the case because I have a counter argument I'll give to you in a second, but you could argue that it is more linear and more catered to beginners just because of the defensive tools they took away from you. Now we've covered the giants, let's cover the little small guys of the village and see how they also handle this training wheel issue. Hunter x Hunter Nin Impact. This game isn't even out yet, but if you've been keeping up with it, the demo's out. And boy is it something. This game chooses to hold your hand in 2 ways, 1 by having auto combos, and 2 by not having special move inputs. Rather just a direction and a button for your special moves. Easier special moves? I actually don't mind that, and fighting games' convoluted inputs are a topic for a whole different video. Auto combos, on the other hand, I do mind, in this game specifically. Because in this game specifically, you could literally 2-touch by auto combo. By pressing 1 button over and over, you can 2-touch somebody, 50% damage. That's not a training wheel mechanic. I don't know what the fuck that is then, because that seems a little scrub-friendly to me. You can mash 1 button and do half my health. Gee, cool, thanks. Auto combos, though, in general, are my favorite solution for this training wheel problem, and the one I propose maybe more fighting games do. Now, there's nothing wrong with experimenting and finding like new mechanics that can maybe bring new players in, you know what I mean? I don't fault any of these games for trying what they tried. If I could give a suggestion, it would be this. Auto combos like Dragon Ball FighterZ, right? So auto combos in Dragon Ball FighterZ, you mash XXXXX a bunch, you get maybe 20% damage. It's far from the optimal of the game, you know what I mean? Like, Tekken has auto combos as well, I forgot to mention that. And again, I don't mind them in Tekken, that's why I didn't even mention it. Like, it's not even that big a deal. As long as your auto combos aren't tracking like crazy or doing tons of damage, I think they are genuinely the best beginner-friendly mechanic you can add because, again, they fit my metric. Auto combos do not apply to intermediate and high levels of play. Only lower level players will use auto combos, people who don't know better combos. That's perfect, that's such a perfect way to do it, you know what I mean? Now, in Dragon Ball FighterZ, I'll admit, some of them do track you like 20 feet in the air, and it's ridiculous, right? So, again, tone down the tracking, tone down the damage. Auto combos, in my opinion, are the best way to handle this situation. Tekken does it great. Dragon Ball FighterZ does it great. Everything else is a little remedial. Making the counter argument, the paradox of beginner-friendly mechanics. So I don't want to be entirely leaning one way here because the truth is, in some ways, you can argue beginner-friendly mechanics are actually making games harder. It's some kind of weird paradox. In a weird way, even if the move might be easier for how much reward it grants you, that is actively making the game harder. So in turn, fighting games actually aren't even favoring new players with these mechanics. They're actually making the game harder defensively, which actually favors the super good players. If anything, it hurts intermediate level play the most. I think the main man Sui can explain this concept a little better than I can, so let me just play this clip for you.
I always find it a little bit amusing when people present the idea you're presenting, that Tekken 7 is harder than Tekken 8 because it's so much harder to attack in Tekken 7. And it's so much easier to defend in Tekken 7 because you can option select so much with a backdash cancel and a magic 4. But what you don't realize, in my opinion, is that it's the complete opposite that is true. The hardest thing to do in Tekken is to defend. It's never been to attack. And it's harder than ever to defend in this game. Oh, it's so easy to attack in Tekken 8. That makes it easier. How does it make it easier for you? You're saying this game is easier because it's so easy to attack. But you're not playing alone, are you? Right? You're playing against your opponent and he also has an easier time attacking. It's the person with the best defense that wins in the end. And it's never been harder to defend, in my opinion, than it is in this game. Because you get so locked down. I think Tekken 8 is the hardest Tekken game ever for intermediate players. That statement you made, for me it's the opposite. I would just do a 180 on your statement. This game is super fucking difficult because defending is so difficult.
So I do think it's worth mentioning how even though some of these mechanics in these games feel cheap and scrubby, in a weird paradoxical way, they're actually raising how good you need to be in the game to play around these mechanics. You can argue that's inflated artificial difficulty, and that's fair. But in a weird way, the games being harder themselves is the yin to the yang of, oh my god, these mechanics just help beginners out too much. You know what I mean? So on one hand, it is helping beginners out a ton. On the other hand, it's actually making the game harder. And that's why I agree with Main Man Sweeter when he says it hurts intermediate level players. These mechanics favor beginners and high level players who can play around these mechanics. The average fighting game player is hurt by these design choices in some way. And also, I'm not going to sit and 100% act like the old fighting game formula was better. You can take a lot of old fighting games from the past that are just kind of batshit insane, and you could argue they are cheap just for how batshit insane they are. Marvel vs. Capcom is a good example. Street Fighter 4, Mortal Kombat 9, Injustice 1. All of these games are absolutely insane because old fighting games just weren't quite as good with their balance yet. So I'm not saying, oh, let's go back to these old fighting games. I'm not saying, fuck these new fighting games. I'm saying there has to be some kind of middle ground in between, right? We need the Goldilocks zone of fighting games, right? It can't be too crazy. It can't be oversimplified. We need it just right.